Hey everybody, HeliPod back in the house once again, and I'm going to give you 100 million reasons to listen thanks to our friends at DraftKings, because they're giving away $100 million in prizes to all of their customers, including one lucky winner who can take home $1 million. It really is easy. Everybody who signs and enters DraftKings free football survivor pool will receive an instant bonus prize of at least $5 in value upon entering, or possibly more. Listen, daily fantasy, DraftKings, they've been synonymous for a long time. DraftKings is the best in the business. Download the DraftKings app now and use the promo code HeliPod to claim your share of $100 million in instant giveaways and put yourself in the running for the $1 million cash top prize. That's promo code HeliPod to get your share of $100 million in prizes only at DraftKings. And of course, they've been with us since the beginning, Vuori. Love these clothes. You can wear them everywhere. There's no better time to order than right now. The school year's getting ready to start. I don't care if you're doing online school, if you're going to school, if you're monitoring your kid's school, Vuori. They have great shorts. I like the bank shorts, and the core short has that built-in liner. Also have board shorts, swimming trunks if you're going to the beach. Great hoodies, excellent joggers. They have golf shirts now as well, long sleeve shirts to go along with it. All of my friends that have tried Vuori have absolutely loved it. And I am going to give you 20% off on your first order. Go to vuoriclothing.com/helipod. That is VUORI clothing.com/helipod to get 20% off today. All right, as for this episode, it is my pleasure to tell you that we got a visit with LaDainian Tomlinson, one of the great people in the world of football. I've worked with him for a long, long time. He is, of course, a Hall of Fame running back with the San Diego Chargers, finished his career with the New York Jets. So many great stories from his days at TCU, why he ended up at TCU out of high school. That was an interesting story that I didn't know. And he also talks about all of his coaches, one in particular that he learned more football from than anybody else, and he really says should be in the Hall of Fame. LT, story time with one of the all-time great running backs on the HeliPad, presented by Vuori right now. Man, what a treat it is. The second Hall of Famer we had on the HeliPod. First, it was Warren Sapp. Now it's LaDainian Tomlinson, the seventh leading rusher in NFL history. Good buddy of mine from NFL Network, and of course, a Hall of Famer as well. LT, thanks for coming on, buddy.
Hey, thank you for having me on, Dan. It's always great to kind of just talk chop with you, man, and hang out a little bit. Even though it's virtual, I'll take it.
I know, me too, but you're not coming into LA anytime soon, which is kind of funny because I talked to David Carr last week, drove up to his house in Bakersfield, and you could tell he wasn't so sad about not having to make that commute into Culver City every week to do the show. This is kind of nice for you guys to a certain extent, right?
Yeah, it is. I mean, you definitely get to be at home a little bit more, interact with the family, less traveling. In fact, I haven't traveled at all. And it's funny that you mentioned David Carr, because every Monday, when we're working together for the pregame, the NFL Total Access pregame show, I know he make that long drive. And after the show, I always ask him, man, how long it's going to take you to get back home? And he says, man, it just depends on traffic. I dread getting on the road going back. But I just couldn't believe that he made the drive every single time he had to come to work. That's pretty amazing. But it is, these times are strange, Dan, right? We're living in unprecedented times. And so, I figured I just want to take advantage of the situation of being at home a little bit more, having some quality time with my kids as they get older. My son just turned 10. My daughter is turning 9 next month. And so you don't get these years back.
No, 100%, man. I've been trying to do the same thing. What's school going to be like for you guys in Texas there? How are they doing that this year?
Well, we're going to start out virtual. It'll be on online classes, virtual with the teacher for about 3 hours out of the day. And then the kids will finish off the rest of the 2 or 3 hours by themselves. And, like anything else, my wife, Torsia, she'll be the teacher here. I'm sure I'll be the PE teacher. Of course, that's what I'm good at. And I'll be the dad that gets them up in the morning and cook breakfast and make sure they're in front of the computer ready to go, man.
Got to be on it, man. My daughter just turned 14. She's going to be a freshman this year. So
Wow.
the online school out here in California, LT, obviously started during the pandemic, last school year. And they've had this whole summer. I said, we're about to buckle up now. This is freshman year. This stuff counts. No more messing around. No more, laying in your bed on a laptop doing
Right.
homework when you want to. We're getting up. We're sitting at a desk. And she just got, whatever, Dad. I'm like, all right, you got a week. Enjoy this last week of summer.
Yeah, I'm telling you, it gets serious. And that's the toughest thing, I think, for our kids. Like during the summer, they don't have to get up in the morning. They can kind of make their own schedule. They roll out of the bed when they want to. And then it's like a shock to the system, right?
Oh.
Whenever that first day of school, oh, man.
Yeah, no, I know it's certainly going to be an interesting year. And, it's going to be, I think, a fun and interesting year in the NFL too. As of time of recording, one of the bigger stories in the league, obviously Cam Newton with the Patriots and Belichick coming out and saying the other day that nothing was off the table, including a quarterback rotation. I can't imagine this isn't Florida, right? With like Doug Johnson and Danny Werfel back in the day. You got to have one guy in there and play him the whole time, right?
I would think so. But although when you think about the Patriots and Bill Belichick in general, he's always, at least I've thought, he's always prided himself on being ahead of the curve. What's the next trend or thing that's going in pro football? Like, what can I get ahead of people on? So maybe this is a situation where they're going to create packages. You're going to have a package for Cam, and you're going to have a package for Jarrett Stidham. And
Right.
Here's the thing, we know that they like Jarrett Stidham a lot. And I know Jarrett Stidham from his time, he went to Baylor and obviously grew up in Texas and is a Texas kid. But I think he has a lot of potential. I really do. I've seen him grow, and I like what I see from the kid. Dan, I don't know if he's ready right now. This year, I think it's still Cam Newton's job if he's healthy. But eventually, I think Jarrett Stidham could be the quarterback in New England.
Yeah, that's going to be a fun story to follow all year, as is Brady with the Bucks. And I won't make you comment on Brady because I'm sure you've been asked about that 100 times on all the different shows that you've been doing for NFL Network. But I do want to ask you about Dez Bryant. So reportedly working out for the Ravens. He's been off for 2 years. He's coming off an Achilles. Didn't get a lot of separation the last year that he played. But could Dez be that big kind of Anquan Bolden type possession receiver, that kind of a hybrid tight end wide receiver type guy that the Ravens could use?
I think possibly, and that's what you're looking at when you think about Dez Bryant. And look, Dez Bryant, he's a neighbor of mine. So I know that he's been working really hard trying to get back into the game. Of course, you probably see the videos with him out there on the field with different quarterbacks, various quarterbacks throwing the football. And Dez has worked, like I said, he's worked very hard to get back to this point. So what is he now? He's probably doesn't have the same type of top end speed like he used to. So we're probably not looking at a player that's going to play on the outside, as you mentioned. So absolutely, why not play him in the slot? Why not create mismatches on Dez Bryant and linebackers? And think about this. If he signs with Baltimore, Lamar Jackson, he loves the middle part of the field. That's where he loves to attack with the tight ends and slot receivers. So if Dez looks good and Baltimore thinks he's ready to go, I can see him, having a part in the offense, not being a huge major part, because I still think Marquise Brown has to develop into their main playmaker on the outside.
Right.
But I think he can have a role in that offense for sure.
Did you see that Hollywood Brown added 23 pounds in the offseason?
I did.
I mean, he's not a big dude. That's crazy.
Yeah. And, I wonder how it's going to translate on the field in terms of the speed, as reported, as you mentioned. They say he still has the same speed. They say he didn't lose anything. But 23 pounds, I don't know. You got to lose a little bit, right?
Well, hey, you're 41, I'm 45. 23 pounds a little different on us these days than Hollywood. But you're right. That is a lot more weight. All right, a couple of running back questions before we get into to you. I'm going to give you 3 choices, okay? And I want to know who you think's going to have a better season. Clyde Edwards-Helaire, who's getting a ton of pub. Love the kid at LSU, obviously. Miles Sanders, who has a lower body injury, but it's not supposed to be a big deal. He's going to be ready for the regular season. Or Kenyon Drake.
Oh, well, I think initially when I think about those 3 guys, I think Miles Sanders just off top because, I'm a potential of how many touches you're going to get per game type of guy. And I get it with Clyde Edwards-Helaire and, with Damian Williams obviously opting out, and he's going to be the guy. But here's the thing. That offense is stacked. You know that. They're going to spread that ball around. I don't know if he's going to get, 250, 300 touches. I think that's crazy to give that type of a rookie running back in that offense those type of touches. And Kenyon Drake, small sample size last year. I mean, it was great, but small sample size. Can he handle a larger role? I'm not so sure. We'll see. Now, Miles Sanders, I think it's his show, baby. You think about what Philly has. They really have nobody else in that backfield. You can talk about the games that Scott had last year, and he was very serviceable. But I think he's a backup to Miles Sanders. And then when you think about it even more, Dan, think about what they have on the outside. They have a bunch of guys that have been injured, so you don't know what you're going to particularly get from Alshon Jeffrey, Deshaun Jackson. You drafted a young rookie wide receiver out of TCU, go Frogs, Jalen Reagor. But I think this offense has to go through Miles Sanders. I can really see him getting clearly and easily 20 to 30 touches per game.
You talk about Reagor. That's an interesting pick that a lot of people kind of like, raised eyebrow when that happened. I know you're a huge college football fan. What does he bring to the table? And do you think he can be a productive rookie that's going to have 60 catches?
Well, I tell you what, his speed is going to be a game changer. And that was evident the first day he walked onto campus at TCU. His speed translated from high school to college right away his very first year, and it will do so in the National Football League. So I believe he's going to be used like a young Deshaun Jackson or, Jeremy Maclin, where they really move him around, obviously give him some easy touches, maybe jet sweeps, little screen plays to get the ball in his hands and watch him work. So 60 catches, I don't know. It just depends on the health of Alshon Jeffrey. I still think Alshon is the number 1 receiver there. So if he can stay healthy, he's going to get the lion's share of those balls, and then factor in Deshaun Jackson. So I think he still will have a solid season for the Eagles.
All right, a couple of old guys in the running back ranks. Who's going to have a better year? Le'Veon Bell, Todd Gurley, now with the Falcons, of course, or David Johnson with the Texans?
Oh, that's a tough one. Those are tough. So, I'm a little concerned with Todd Gurley, obviously, because I was one of those guys, Dan, quite honestly, last year that said, hey, he's going to bounce back. He's going to be healthy, and we're going to see the old Todd Gurley, where clearly we did not see that. And I think, the knee is starting to become a problem, on top of the fact that he's playing on turf now. So keep that in mind. So I don't know what I'm going to see from Todd. I don't know if he's going to be able to hold up. David Johnson, I think he's going to give you more from the passing game out of the backfield receiving the football than he will rushing the football. And so I think with that said, the first guy, who did you say? Le'Veon. With Le'Veon, I think by default, honestly, I think Le'Veon has to be the guy because he's going to get the touches. You know, when you think about it, there's nobody else in that backfield but Le'Veon. And I believe, you know, after obviously all that he went through last year, struggling, trying to get back into the form of being back in football, I think he came in this year with a chip on his shoulder. And so I think he really wants to prove some. Now, I'm not saying he's going to be the old Le'Veon Bell like in Pittsburgh,
Right.
because I don't think he has that type of talent around him. He don't have the receivers. They don't have the offensive line. You know, it's going to be tougher on him. But I do think he will have a better season and better than, you know, Todd Gurley and David Johnson.
Yeah, he should have a chip on his shoulder because I don't feel like they're sold on him at all. Obviously, they had all those issues when Gase first got there, and I think they tried to unload him in the offseason. I actually heard that they were trying to send him to Houston, and Houston didn't want any part of him, so they ended up making that D-Hop trade, getting David Johnson in return, which is an interesting scenario.
Wow.
There's so many storylines. We could talk shop forever, but this is going to be about LT. I want to get the LT story out there to maybe the two people who don't know it, because everybody knows your story. But I'm trying to think back to when you were coming out of high school. It was University High School in Waco, right?
Correct.
You're obviously a very good high school player. Do you remember what star ranking you were? Did you have star rankings when you came out?
Yeah, we had star rankings, but I'm assuming I was maybe a 2-star or a low 3-star maybe. And the reason why is, you know, I really didn't get the chance to play running back until my senior year. And so it was one of those situations where, so my freshman year, I went to Marlin High School. And that was back where my family is from. My mother and my father originated from this small town in Texas, Marlin. And so I went there my freshman year. And then I played varsity in football, you know, but it was a little 3A high school. And I played, you know, varsity and everything, baseball, track, basketball, and football. So I'm thinking, man, you know,
This is going to be easy.
This is going to be easy. I'm pretty good. I'm playing varsity football. You know, I'm a running back and everything. So after that season, we moved back to Waco. And I go to University High School for the first year, my sophomore year. I walk in and I talk to the head coach, Leroy Coleman. And I sit down with him. We're having a conversation. He said, what position are you playing? And I said, Coach, I'm playing running back, and I play safety as well. He said, nah. He said, well, you're not going to play running back here. Not right now. He said, we got some pretty good guys, so I need you to play fullback.
Oh.
What? What? It was a shock to the system, right? But what I knew was, because obviously I had grown up there in Waco, I knew the guys that he were talking about. And these guys were two guys, both older than me, a year older than me. One of them I pretty much grew up, was one of my best friends. And this was a guy like Darren Sproles. Like, he was quick as all get out. You know, so I understood. Yeah, I'll block for him. You know, it's my buddy. But, man, I got to wait 2 more years to my senior year, you know, to get a chance to play running back. He was like, yep, that's what you're going to have to do. And so I did, Dan. I played fullback and outside linebacker my sophomore and junior year. The summer of my senior year, he calls me in the office, and he says, son, he says, you have done everything that we asked you to do so far. You've been a great teammate, sacrifice. He said, it's your time now. You're going to play running back this year. And so it started with the first game. First game, 6 touchdowns. That following week, TCU comes and offer me a full scholarship.
After one game?
After my first senior game in high school. Yeah. And so that's when everything started rolling. Baylor came in and offered me. You know, UTEP and some other schools offered me. And that's how my recruiting, you know, kind of went from there. But at the same time, there was no major schools like Texas. You know, Texas didn't recruit me. Texas A&M did recruit me, but they never offered me a scholarship. And so at the end of the day, I felt a sense of loyalty to TCU, because I felt like, man, they were the first to believe in me. They was the first to offer me. So that's why I ended up going to TCU.
When you were a kid, was there one school in Texas that you dreamed of playing for? Was it Texas?
No, not really. In fact, when I was a kid, I was a Miami Hurricanes fan. You know, I like the Hurricanes. I liked LSU as well, and because I followed running backs, and I even remember Garrison Hurst at Georgia.
Oh
You know, I
yeah.
followed Garrison Hurst, and that was the reason, quite honestly, why I wore number 5 in high school in TCU was because of Garrison Hurst at Georgia. And so I was just a big fan of, I guess mostly SEC schools at that time. But it's funny how things work out, Dan. None of them recruited me.
Well, hey, it worked out. It worked out pretty well, man. It's funny. Your junior year, I was looking up some of the numbers. You had that 406-yard game against UTEP, which was a single game record at the time. And then your senior year was just off the chain. Yeah, over 2,100 yards and 22 touchdowns. And you finished fourth in the Heisman that year. Wenke won it. Josh Heupel finished second, and your future teammate Drew Brees finished third. Was that a type of thing where you look back and you're like, listen, man, I was at TCU, had a great career. To even finish in the top 5 was amazing. Or were you like, man, I should have won that thing?
No, I mean, I never really think about that I should have won it. Honestly, at that time to get TCU on a national stage was huge. I mean, we had the whole Heisman campaign going around town, and it was a big deal around here. It was a big deal. And so it was kind of, I guess, at that point when people really start to wonder, hey, where is TCU, by the way? Like we keep hearing about this school. Where is it? And so I knew, Dan, and I think most of us around here knew that I probably wouldn't win it, that it was going to probably go to a quarterback. But the fact that, I was there, I got to participate in the Heisman, finalists, going to New York and bringing my family there. It was such an awesome experience, really, and one that I won't ever forget. But I think at the end of the day, you think about like, man, who really had the better career? I mean, if we weren't talking about like schools or whatever, who really
Right.
had the better even college career? Now Drew, Drew has an argument because Drew had even in college, he had an incredible career and obviously had a great senior season as well.
So you wrap up your career. You're a Heisman finalist. You know you're going to be a high draft pick. At what point did you realize you were going to be, a top 5 pick?
Yeah, it didn't happen until later in the draft process. I mean, as we got closer to the draft, I started to hear my name kind of creep up the draft boards. But I remember like it was, the whole process, how it went. So right after my senior season, then they were still projecting me to go late first round, early second, okay? So it was Deuce McAllister as the clear-cut favorite running back coming out that year. Lamont Jordan was also, he was second. And it was like me and Travis Henry, we were battling out. Your boy from Tennessee, right?
Yeah.
So we were battling out for that third running back spot. And so I knew right away that I had to kind of impress through the draft process. So I went to train right away. Obviously I left school for the second semester. I went down to Bradenton, Florida to IMG, and I trained there for about 2 or 3 months up until the combine. So I go through the combine, and right at the combine, I knew what I needed to do. People wanted to know, could I run? They say this guy, he came out of option system and didn't catch the ball a lot. We really don't know how fast he is because he played inferior competition. So we want to know, one is how fast is he? And 2, can he catch the football? And so I went into the combine, blew my 40 out. Once I ran my 40, that's when I started to hear guys like Mel Kiper say, hey, Tomlinson is creeping up in the middle of the first round now. And so I had the momentum at that point. I knew that I was kind of showing the scouts that I had the total package, if you will. So right around, how you go through the pro day.
Mm-hmm.
So right around, I think we had our pro day sometime in March. And so at that time in March, it became really me and Deuce McAllister. Okay, we don't know who's going to be the number 1 running back. at my pro day, I had to prove how well I can catch the football. And no kidding, they threw me 100 balls, Dan, at my pro day. I caught 99 of them. And
What?
the one I didn't catch was a bad pass. No kidding. And
100 balls to a
they
running?
threw
That's
me.
unheard of.
Well, no, it was like quick stuff. It was like
Okay.
get down on the ground
Right.
quick, so overall catching 100 passes, I mean, it was just like, it was little drills that they had me doing.
Right.
The one that you sit down on the ground and they throw the ball at all different types of angles and see how good your hands are. So we did different things like that to test how well I can catch the football. After that, there was no more question marks. And then as April came around, I started to hear, all right, LT's he's overtaking Deuce McAllister. He will be the first running back taken somewhere in the top 10. Now, my agent, Tom Condon, at the time, he said, listen, it's going to be out of, I think all the teams right around 5 to 8. That's what we were thinking. So it was New England was there. The Falcons was there. If you remember, the Falcons had the 5th pick.
Mm-hmm.
The Chargers had the 1st pick at the time, and they were locked in on Michael Vick. Everybody thought Michael Vick is going number 1 to the Chargers. So I took all my visits, Atlanta, Kansas City, New England, Chicago had like the 8th pick. Those were my visits I took because that was the range that we felt like I was going to go in. And sure enough, even when the trade happened with Atlanta and the Chargers, San Diego at that time, I still was the 5th pick to the Chargers.
Yeah, I remember that the trade, and of course Atlanta takes Vic that year. You get into the Chargers in 2001. They drafted Drew Brees that same year in the 2nd round. I believe he was the 1st pick of the 2nd round.
Yes, he was.
And Mike Riley is the head coach. You guys don't have a great year record-wise. You finished 5-11.
But Norv Turner, remember, is offensive coordinator.
Oh, that's right. I had forgotten about that.
Yes.
I had forgotten about that, and that will come to be very important to you later on down the road. But that adjustment for you coming from TCU, you prove everything you have to throughout the pre-draft process. You put up all the numbers you can possibly put up in college. Did you get there feeling like you had arrived, or did you get there still feeling like you had something to prove?
Yeah, no, I felt like I had something to prove. I mean, because still, in my mind, people felt like, this kid coming from a small school, like NFL is going to eat his lunch. He's going to see what real competition is like on this level. And so I came in feeling like I had something to prove. Also, I felt that way because I wanted to live up to that billing of being a top 5 pick, of being, the number 1 pick for the San Diego Chargers, and going into a locker room that had Junior Seau, the late Junior Seau, who was all world, right? And so subconsciously, you think, man, what are these guys going to think about me and being a number 1 draft pick? Man, they're I'm gonna have a lot to prove with these guys. So that was on my mind. So I went in focused, ready to go. On top of that, Norv told me right away, Dan, he said, you better get your butt ready. He said, because I'm going to give you 300 carries this year. My rookie year, he told me that.
Wow. Did you get hazed at all throughout the mini camp or training camp process?
Of course I did. Absolutely. I think the biggest hazing I got was the rookie dinner. The rookie dinner was a tradition that the Chargers did every year. So the number 1 draft pick had to take all the veterans to a nice steakhouse. And they got to order up whatever they wanted, drinks, food. And this wasn't just 1 entree now. If they wanted to get 2 or 3 entrees and just leave it on the table, that's what they did. Because that was a way of them, hazing you, but at the same time, it was like, okay, we're welcoming you into this fraternity, into this team. And at the same time, the reason why we do it is as a 1st round pick, we're going to be the guys you lean on. You got all that money. if you can't spend a little money on your vets, a nice dinner on your vets, then, like that's like the least you can do as we welcome you in. So at the end of the day, they spent about $18,000 of my money that night. So that's
$18,000 in 2001 is probably like $50,000 right now.
pretty much, right? Yeah, pretty much.
When you say all the vets, you mean all the vets on the entire team or just all the vets on offense?
No, all the vets on the entire team, 3 years or older.
Oh my God.
Think about that. Think about that.
That is crazy, man. Well, you obviously did just fine post dinner. You had 1,200 plus yards and 59 catches, and Doug Flutie was the quarterback that year. That was your only year with Doug as the starting quarterback. What was Doug like?
Oh man, Doug was the best guy ever. He really made practice and meetings and the locker room fun, and he was always willing to give you advice. I remember one time we got into a conversation about playing the drums. Doug was a big drum player.
Yeah.
He loved playing the drums, right? And so, I casually said, man, I would love to, kind of get to know how to play the drums, learn how to play it. So then, no kidding, like a week later, I come into the locker room, and in front of my locker is a whole drum set that Doug Flutie got me.
No way.
A whole drum. I'm like, what the? He said, well, you said you want to learn how to play the drums. I got your drum set. That's the type of guy he was, man. That was Doug Flutie, and he was just a joy to play with, man.
Did you ever learn how to play the drums, LT?
Not good. I learned how to play them, but not good.
Hey, well, at least you gave it the old college try. Quick break now. Tell you a little bit about some of our sponsors. Vaco, the motto there, we invest in your career so you are here for the duration of ours. Vaco is a premier talent and solutions firm that finds boutique-level service with global reach in the areas of consulting, consultative project resources, executive search, permanent placement, and strategic staffing. You need somebody to fill that C-suite position? Vaco has you covered. Their areas of expertise are aplenty: accounting, finance, technology, healthcare IT, operations administration, or international managed services. It was founded back in 2002 by a good buddy of mine, Brian Waller, and one of his friends, and it has grown since then to serve 40 markets, 1,000 employees, 5,000 consultants, and $750 million in revenue. Been very fun to watch my good buddy Waller grow his company, and grow it he has. Check him out at vaco.com. That's VACO.com for more information on how Vaco connects people to their dream jobs and helps leading companies around the world find talent to grow their business. Vaco.com, VACO.com. They can help you. So I started taking this product, True Niagen, about a month ago. Really wanted to invest in my long-term health, and I think you should too. It's a new trend in the scientific community that surrounds the health of our cells. And this affects everybody, from pro athletes to weekend warriors like most of us. We have something in our cells called NAD, which supports our energy and our body's ability to repair itself all the way down to the cellular level. Well, it turns out that NAD declines as we age. It also declines when we overexercise, we don't sleep enough, and even when we're exposed to a virus. There's only one NAD booster that is backed by Nobel Prize-winning scientists, 10 published human studies, and regulatory approval for safety, and that is True Niagen. Additionally, True Niagen is NSF certified for sport. Visit TrueNiagen.com, TrueNiagen.com to learn more, and I think it will help you all the way down to the cellular level. It's made me feel pretty good over the last month. Check out True Niagen. And finally, I want to tell you about Greens Plus, a company based here in Manhattan Beach, a health food leader since 1989, really known for creating the first ever blended green superfood powder that you can just dump into a smoothie. Has all kinds of nutrients that are just fantastic for your body, and it tastes great. Also, Greens Plus bars incredibly tasty as well. Helps boost your energy, get you that nutritional insurance that your body deserves, and it's all organic, gluten-free, soy-free, premium green superfoods. You can get them at Whole Foods, Amazon, or if you want to save a little money, go to greensplus.com and you get 20% off with the promo code HELLIE. That's 20% off with the promo code HELLIE, HELLIE, at greensplus.com. I love the chocolate protein bars and the wild berry superfood powder.
So year one is in the books. As I said earlier, 5-11. They make that coaching change, and in comes Marty, the drill sergeant, Marty Schottenheimer. What was the biggest difference for you with Marty as the head coach?
It was really all about attention to detail. Like every facet of the game, Marty wanted you to be prepared for it. Like I remember, like my first year, Dan. If the offense wasn't meeting, like you didn't have to go to special team meetings or anything like that. There were no big, huge, like team meetings that, like Marty would always bring the team together, the entire team at the beginning of the week. And he would go over the entire game plan of how to beat our opponent for each aspect of the game, like offense, defense, special teams, referees, like these what these guys do. Like he had it all covered, and I felt like my first year, like there was none of that. So it was a shock to the system. Like, wait, like I got to go to special team meetings too? Why? Like I'm not even on special teams. Yeah, but Marty wants everyone in there. Okay, but it was just like attention to detail. He wanted you to know what the other guy was supposed to do, even though you didn't play on special teams. He wanted you to know what guys were supposed to do. But what it did was it held us all accountable, right? And it made us, I guess, dig a little deeper with understanding the little nuances of football and even what other guys were doing. So I learned the most football that I ever learned under Marty Schottenheimer. That's when I really felt like my game went to the next level, because I was able to understand what my linemen were doing, what the quarterback was supposed to do, receivers, everybody. And I'll tell you what, man, he was my favorite coach of all time. And I think even still to this day, I consider him a great friend, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
That's a strong statement from Marty Schottenheimer. That was the beginning, that second year, of a remarkable 6-year run for you, where you averaged almost 1,600 yards a year, and you had that great MVP season in 2006. And 2006 was the same year you guys went 14-2, or was that the next season?
Yes.
It was 2006. Yep. That was when I hate to ask guys when they look back, but did that year you guys had such a special season and a special team, and did you look back and say, man, I wish we could have got one, not just for me, but for Marty?
Absolutely. That was our best chance, especially with Marty, to win it. Because we were clearly, like, most of the time that we took the field, we were stacked, man. Offensive skill position. We had great linemen at that time. And even on defense, we had pass rushers. We were stacked. We knew that we had a really good team. And so it showed. And I think, the shock of it all is when you think back, for me, when I think about the playoffs, going back to the playoffs, you have the first round bye, and the first game is against the Patriots, right? And really, you dominate that game. When you go back and look at the box scores and just the game in general, we dominate the game except for the last, maybe 5 or 6 minutes. And it's really turnovers and bad plays and things that was uncharacteristic of Marty teams, right? And so it's just like, for his last year when he had the best chance to win, how could we lose a game in the way that he spent so much time, going over details, to lose like that was disheartening, and it was heartbreaking at the same time. And as you know, that was the end of his coaching career.
Yeah, the end of the Marty Schottenheimer era there in San Diego, and in comes Norv Turner. And I, growing up in DC, they were the Redskins then. I grew up a big Redskins fan, very familiar with Norv Turner. I always found it fascinating, though, because he never, to me, seemed to have the personality of a head coach, whereas Marty did, or Bill Belichick does, just a commanding presence in the room. What was Norv like as a head coach? Because we know he is a great play caller.
Yeah. Well, I think Norv was a guy that said, you know what, I know what my strengths are. Even as a head coach, I'm going to stick to my strengths. And what is that? I'm going to work with the offense. And essentially what he did was he had, during his time in San Diego, Norv had of what amounts to a defensive head coach, right? Somebody on the defense that can be the voice, and really that the defensive coordinator most of the time, was the guy. And I think for the most part at that time, I want to say it was Ron Rivera maybe, or even Wade Phillips, one of those guys. And maybe they both shared. Wade was there for a little while, and then obviously, I think Ron Rivera came in. But anyway, right. So we knew that early on, though. I knew Norv already, as I mentioned before, from my rookie year. So I knew that he wasn't going to be a guy, to really demand the attention of everybody in the room and really go and interact with those defensive guys and coach them up and coach the special teams. He wasn't going to be like Marty. So you had to accept that part. But we did embrace his offensive philosophy, the way that we knew he was brilliant in that way. But I did feel like there were certain things that, the leaders of the team had to take care of, meaning, in certain situations, like when things might go awry and guys may act out, where Marty would take a hold of them. Norv wasn't going to do that. So the leaders needed to do that, and that was just the way it kind of worked.
You had so many great leaders on that team early on. At what point in your career were you comfortable having conversations with guys in terms of saying, look, dude, like, we don't do it that way. You have to do it this way. Get in line.
Yeah, I guess it probably when Junior left, because I spent those first couple of years, with Junior and Rodney Harrison as well, and kind of learning, because they were the leaders. The tempo of practice was led through them. The voice in the locker room was led through them. Even on game days, their voice reverberated throughout the locker room and before we went on the field. And so I took those first couple of years just kind of learning from them and when to say things, when not to say things, how to challenge guys, all those type of things. And I think right around my third year, maybe fourth year is when I started to kind of feel a little bit more comfortable pushing guys and, trying to motivate guys. And because quite honestly, I had to, Dan, at that point, I became the guy that everybody looked to, like you need to say something. And I remember, my running back coach, Clarence Shellman, we used to talk, a bunch. We used to talk about a lot of different things. And the one thing that he would always tell me is, hey, you're going to have to start to be more vocal, because I didn't think I needed to be. I was always a guy that, hey, look how I do it. I'm going to show you, I'm going to show you the way I work, the example that you should follow. And so I finally became comfortable to be more vocal and really put myself out there. And I think it was the best thing for my career, honestly.
Did you ever have to rein Phillip Rivers in when he was quarterback and tell him to be less vocal?
No, I didn't want to. I wanted that. I loved that from Phillip. And even Drew. Drew was great in that way. Now, you never saw it in the way that you see it with Phillip. But, when we were working out and in practice and whatnot, like Drew would kind of give it back to, the defense or get on guys and whatnot. But Phillip, that was natural for him. Like that's the way he's always been.
I saw somewhere where you kind of wondered out loud what it would have been like if you could have played with Drew your whole career. And you were very clear that it was in no way derogatory about Philip, but you and Drew came in together, and it would have been nice to finish together. Is that something you look back on?
Well, I think, so when Drew and I first got there, we had a pact, and the pact was, hey, we're going to be here together and we're going to bring a championship to San Diego. And that pact was made when we first got off the plane, the first day we got to San Diego. And I so much, Dan, I wanted to make that pact true. I wanted it to be true. I knew that we had what it took as two guys that were going to be leaders of the football team, especially offensively, the quarterback and the running back. And so it was just, it was disappointing also because I started to see the growth in him. And keep in mind, our relationship went beyond the football field too. We worked out together. Our wives hung out together. We did a lot of stuff off the field with each other as well. And so when your friend and somebody you made a pact with, all of a sudden, they're going to let them go. And, it's tough.
Right.
And so, you just wonder, especially I think that first year without him which was Philip's first year starting, the 14-2 year. I just wonder, because we were so conservative that year because we had to be, it was Philip's first year starting, that I wonder if Drew was, under center, how much better at that year we would have been. Not to slight Philip in any way. He wasn't, obviously at the point where he is now, his first year, but you just wonder things like that, like what would it have been?
Well, you saw what happened to Drew, and you get to the end of your career in San Diego, and you just knew it was time, right? You knew you weren't going to be there. And I'm just wondering that last year, you only had 730 yards, I believe, and played in 14 games, and you knew the end was near. At what point did you know that for sure you wouldn't be back in your mind?
The year before, honestly, I knew the year before. So the year before was the year I got hurt at the end of the year. And so there was a comment by the GM at the time about me taking a pay cut. And he made it public, like he said this publicly. Instead of contacting my agent or coming to me to talk about it behind closed doors. And so I said something back publicly, and we started kind of going back and forth.
I remember, yeah.
In the media, remember? And at that time, I knew, I talked to my agent. I said, hey, just let me go now. I said, just let me go and get out of here, And, of course, we couldn't work that out. And I ended up staying one more year. So I knew after that happened that this was going to be, this was going to be the final year in San Diego. There was no going back from what happened. And, that's what ended up happening.
I remember we've talked about this before, how you ended up in New York, and you guys were expecting a baby, right? And didn't they give you a big gift basket? Yeah. And that, honest to God, it was the gift basket that almost put it over the top, wasn't it?
Oh, it did put it over the top, because it comes down to, mama's going to make the last decision. She has to sign off on that thing. And so I remember I went to Minnesota first. And this was, Adrian Peterson, it was his heyday. He was like going into his third or fourth year. At that time, I think they had Chester Taylor, and he wasn't going to re-sign with them. And so they were thinking, man, we bring LT back, have him play third down. Adrian's going to play first and second down. And it sounded great. I mean, it was, they sold me. I really enjoyed my visit there. And then I was scheduled to go to New York next, right?
Right.
And I remember going into the Vikings building that final day. And Mr. Spielman, he's the GM. Of course, he's still the GM, but he was the GM even at that time. And he said, well, let's get this deal done. You know, I got your agent on the way, and we ready to get it done. I said, whoa. I said, I can't sign a deal right now. He said, oh, sure you can. Like, why
He was
go?
Rick Spielman was putting the hard press on you.
He was putting the press on me. He was like, why go to New York? You don't need to go to New York. Let's just get this deal done right now. And I said, you know, look, I cannot make a decision without talking to the wife first. Like, she has to be in on this decision. I said, I'm gonna need a few days. I don't make rational decisions just, you know, right away. And so, sure enough, I was able to get out of the building and get on the plane and go to New York. And so I get to New York, and of course they have it laid out. I walk into and this is, you know where they put me up at, Dan? They put me up at Trump Bedminster, you know, like at the golf resort.
Oh, out there. Okay.
Yeah, in Bedminster, New Jersey. Yep. I think that's yep. So it was Trump's golf course. And when you go there to play, if you spend a weekend, they got these little cottages for you, like these little nice little homes that's right there on the property. And that's where they put me up at. And so I walk into this place that I'm staying for the weekend, and it's a nice, you know, like baby basket, the whole nine. So of course I get on the phone with my wife, and I'm taking pictures, and she said, oh, that's it. We got to go to New York. We got to go to New York.
That's unbelievable.
Yeah.
The basket full of baby gear, and it was all like baby jet stuff, right?
Yeah, baby jet stuff, of course.
I saw something recently about how Mark Sanchez was so giddy when he found out that you were coming there. I think this was like the recruiting visit where they had like your locker their jersey and helmet and everything in the locker. And he saw it before he had even heard that you were coming. It was like a kid in a candy store and was so excited. Did he go out to a recruiting dinner with you guys?
Yes, yes, he did. Mark was a part of the recruiting dinner. In fact, Mark stayed at Trump's place in Bedminster. Like he had a place there. You know, he was still, I think, in his second year. Yeah, he was going into his second year. So he just kind of lived like a bachelor, right? And so he stayed out there, and we kind of, you know, hung out for a couple of days while I was out there. But yes, he was a big part of the recruiting trip that I took there, and I really enjoyed my time with Mark Sanchez. He was fun to be around. You know, I got to know him well. It was fun.
Well, listen, you had 2 fun years there. You make it to the championship game. You have almost 1,000 yards with the Jets. I'll leave the Jets here. You said Marty Schottenheimer, you never learned more from a head coach. He was your favorite head coach. Just in a couple of sentences, give me your description of Rex Ryan as a head coach.
Fun. I mean, and you know, I think at that time in my career, going into my 10th year, I needed someone fun and loose, and you know, Rex was the perfect guy, man. You know, he would just do things off the whim sometimes. You know, that was Rex, but he always kept it light, and the veteran guys loved him because he knew how to treat them. He knew how to treat his guys.
You know who that reminds me of? Tom Brady, right? I mean, he goes, he plays for Bruce Arians. He just wants something fun, something different. I mean, it's the identical story, LT.
It is. And you know, when you've been somewhere for a long time, as Tom Brady has, and it's been that kind of military-minded, you know, kind of formula and the way they do things in New England, I mean, it wears on any player. And so you can see Tom right now, whenever we see the highlights of him in practice, what is he doing? He's smiling, he's having fun, he's interacting with, you know, Bruce and all the coaches, because he really, I believe he's probably going to have the best time of his career over these next 2 years, 3 years, however long he plays in Tampa.
Yeah, 43 years old, and he's still spinning it pretty well. So you wrap up your career. You come back. At that time, you still have a place in San Diego after you're done?
No. So once I left San Diego, I was gone.
You were gone.
I was gone. So I put my house on the market, and because I knew I was going back to Texas. I mean, that it was my home, and so I put my house on the market in Texas. I mean, in San Diego, and I had already started looking for a place in Texas. So when I went to New Jersey, I was already searching for land back in Texas. I just rented a place in Baskin Ridge, New Jersey, for a couple of years. And once I got done with the Jets, I just transitioned and went right back to Texas.
Did you know right away when you were done that you were going to do TV work?
No, I did not. I seriously didn't know what I was going to do. Honestly, I didn't want to do anything, to be honest with you. I just wanted to just kind of hang out for a little while, just do nothing, and decompress from playing 11 years. No, let me back up. Not playing 11 years, playing over 20 years of my life.
Right.
When you
Your
think
whole
about
life.
every year, right? Pop Warner, junior high, that's a lot of football. But the opportunity, came about that my agent called me one day. He said, man, what are you going to do? I said, nothing. I'm not going to do anything. He said, no, you can't just not do anything. I said, man, why don't you just go do some TV just to keep yourself occupied? And I said, TV? Man, I always said I wouldn't be one of those guys. He was like, what are you talking about? I said, well, I just feel like sometimes when you get on TV, you as a player, you act like you didn't play. You act like you never made a mistake or you was the best thing ever. And so I just didn't feel like I fit in being one of those guys. Well, needless to say, what has it been? I'm like 8, 9, almost 10 years later. I'm still doing TV.
Well, what was it? What was the hardest adjustment?
It was getting out of my mind that I had to criticize guys a little bit and, call them out a little bit. And the fact that, Dan, I knew nothing about TV. You know what I mean? Like, nothing about TV. And, that's frightening in itself to put yourself out there, to get on national TV and not know anything about it, not how to break down, film or, talk to different points and, get yourself to another point. Like all those things that you learn, as you're doing TV. It was a bit, at the time I was thinking like, I don't know if I can do this, because at the same time, you have to put the commitment in if you want to be good at it. You have to study it and you have to know your stuff at the same time.
You worked a lot, right? I mean, you were actually dedicated to this. There are some guys that I've seen that come in and, they know enough that they can kind of get by, but you had to make some adjustments, some real adjustments and improve everything, your cadence, your speaking pattern. You worked with a speech coach, right? There, you did a lot of that.
Absolutely. And I just believed in just educating myself and working on something that I wanted to be good at. Just like I took the same approach when I said I wanted to play football. Anything else, quite frankly, I want to do. You got to put the time in, right? You got to work on it. And what I did back then was I started to find guys that I really liked, like Sterling Sharp at that time. I worked with Sterling for a year, and I just started saying, Sterling, man, show me how to do this. Like, show me how to do a XO, all these kind of things. And he would teach me. What I realized then was all of these guys, Dion, Michael, even yourself, if you just ask, they're willing to tell you or teach you how to do certain things. And so it's us, a lot of times we get in our own way because, and I think men are like this most of the time, we don't want to like resign the fact that we got to ask somebody else.
Ask for help.
We don't know it. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I said, I'm not going to be prideful about this. I'm going to learn how to do it. And so, yes, I put in a lot of work to get better.
Do you remember, this is one of my favorite LT stories of all time. you remember you're sitting in the green room with Arthur, the speech coach? The door's shut. It's just the two of you in there, right? We had a
I
couple
knew
of
you was
couches.
gonna bring this up. I
I'm bringing
knew
it
it.
up. This is the best. You're sitting in there with Arthur, and I hear somebody in there, but I can't quite. There's like this kind of guttural noise that's going on. I open the door. Arthur's sitting on one end of the couch. You're sitting on the other, and you have two fingers in your mouth. And you said, Arthur, I prefer two fingers instead of one. And I said, okay, I'm going to leave you guys alone. I'm out of here, dude. It was a speech exercise where you had your fingers on your tongue and you practice enunciating words. And he would do that with everybody. So it was not unique to you. It was just unique to see at that time a future Hall of Famer with half of his hand in his mouth talking to the speech coach. It was hilarious.
It's the commitment, man. And that's things that, as you mentioned, I had to do in order to get better. And, I wanted to stick around for a little while and doing this job. So I mean it, when you think about all those things, it's worth it, man. To go through that and to get better in that way is definitely worth it.
Yeah, that was a funny moment. Your title, you also work for the Chargers, is special assistant. What on earth does a special assistant do for the Chargers?
Well, mainly working with our corporate sponsors.
Okay.
And so when you think about, I'm on the business operations side. So a lot of times what I do on game day, it's called the game day experience. A lot of our top sponsors that are in the suites, obviously, I go around and I just kind of check on them and interact with them, maybe take some pictures, maybe sign a couple of things for them, make sure that they're happy, right? And then even some of our most top sponsors, I go to dinner with them, usually on Monday nights. We'll
Right.
have a dinner night with LT, and we'll go to a nice steakhouse and just converse for about 2 hours. Everything from the state of the team to college and anything else that comes up at the dinner table. And then, of course, I got to be involved in the community. And so a lot of the community outreach programs that we do, I'm obviously involved in that and show up to those and make an appearance and talk to the media. So just trying to be more visible for an organization that most people know me from.
Do you have any idea what this year will entail for you in terms of your duties with the Chargers? Because it's going to be different.
Yeah, it's going to be different. I'm thinking I'm going to be doing a lot of this, what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I'm hoping then as we get closer to the end of the year, maybe I can make a game or two. I'm really hoping that I can go see that new stadium because I haven't seen it finished yet.
It's spectacular, man. I just flew over it again today, came back from Vegas doing some UFC stuff. And it's such a bummer. Even in Vegas, I'm staying right next to the Raiders' new stadium. And not only are they going to have no fans for the NFL, UNLV was supposed to play there as well. So they had all these, Vegas, which has never had a pro football team before, is going to have to go through the whole first season without any fans in the stands there. It's, I think it's going to be a little bit of a weird year for everybody. We're almost hitting an hour, LT. I do want to let you go, but I want to do a quick 2-minute drill, throw a couple more questions out to you if that's okay.
Let's do it. Yep.
All right. Best running back in the NFL right now, according to LaDainian Tomlinson.
Oh, man. I can't pick between Christian and Saquon. I think Zeke is close behind, but because those guys are so dynamic in the all-purpose game, catching the ball and rushing it, I think they're neck and neck. I would give a slight edge to Christian because he's done it more. He's been a little bit more consistent. Saquon got hurt last year,
right.
But when when Saquon flashes, man, there is nobody like that dude.
No, he is electric when you watch him. But you're right, McCaffrey's been a little more durable. How about a running back who reminds you of you? I'm afraid you're going to say the same guy.
Yeah, I mean, I got to say Saquon, he's bigger,
Yeah.
Saquon's bigger. But, man, it just – what it is? It's the lateral movement. Being able to jump cut, to two holes outside of where you started. Like, that's tough for people to tackle when you think about it. And then the burst through the hole, special. It's as Marcus Allen told me one time, an artist in cleats.
When he gets going, man, you're right. Those big, huge tree trunks of legs, and to be able to cut on a dime like he does, it's awesome to see. How about the best athlete you've played with?
Antonio Gates. Just to see some of the things that he did on the football field, but even more special, I mean, we played basketball together a number of times, and some of the things that Antonio in his heyday did on the basketball court at my house was incredible.
Really?
I mean, I was thinking to myself, man, this dude, why ain't it? You should play in the NBA. Seriously.
College basketball player at Kent State, I believe, right?
Yes. Yep.
So,
yeah, man. And knocked off I think they made it to the Elite Eight.
They did.
His senior season. Yeah, knocked off some big time programs.
How about a famous non-athlete friend that you keep in contact with regularly?
Oh man, you got me there. Let me see. Probably somebody like Alex Thomas, the actor, comedian.
Yeah.
So Alex, keep in contact with him on the regular. He's probably, man, you put me on the spot here.
It's a tough one.
I'm probably missing somebody. They probably gonna call me like, man, why you say
I'm
me?
sure you're missing somebody. And I always do this to people, and I hate when they do it to me because I can never pick favorites of anything, right?
Yeah.
Like, what's your favorite food? I don't know, pepperoni pizza. I'm terrible at that. All right, last thing. The last thing that you Googled.
Me and my golf. So me and my golf is it's actually an online virtual teaching. It's two guys, and they're basically like your instructor of how to make you better in golf. And so the last thing this morning, I was watching some videos, some instruction on putting, because that's been the struggle for me lately is putting. I have a birdie putt, nice birdie putt, Dan, and I miss it. Or a 5-foot par putt, and I miss it, and that's the bogey. And it drives me crazy.
Yeah, me too, man. I'm right there with you. What's your handicap these days?
It's about a 12.
Okay. All right.
Yeah, it's getting better.
Oh man, LT, this has been fun. I appreciate the time, brother, and stay sane at home with the kids in online school, because I know there are going to be days when you're going to want to pull your hair out. At least if you're like me sometimes.
Yeah, I probably already have pulled some of it out, but I appreciate it, Danny. Great to talk to you, bye-bye.